Alrighty, welcome back everyone. It is LaughNgamez here. I'm back with another Starcraft 2 1 versus 1 bot AI cast. We have got ourselves what should be a good one here today, as it's going to be none other than BenBotBC taking on Deimos. I kind of want to joke and say what is currently the top ranked Protoss because, well, it's the only one that's, well, it's the best one that's entered on the preseason so far, as we've yet to see -0 return. I imagine by the time this video's up, I imagine we'll have all the maps on the ladder updated and most of the bots returned anyway, as the bot authors do have to input those manually. I imagine the developer of -0 is probably waiting for all the maps to be available. It's still a bit of a work in progress, bugs being reported, that kind of thing, because the maps are new, they have to be compatible with the bots, and so there's bound to be a few bugs. But yes, we have got Benbot taking on Damos, just a standard racks inside the main, a very nice pinning with this SCV. So Damos actually loses its probe as Benbot's SCV bloodies its claws, I guess. And so yeah, ladies and gentlemen, go ahead, click that like button if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below saying more bots, more new maps if you want to see more new maps. Okay, this is definitely an effect of the new maps. We even had Benbot with some nice debugging, saying bunker wall fail, rally point issue. Now it's building its bunker on the low ground. Yeah, it just goes to show that new maps can cause problems for these bots, which is something we'll have to kind of enjoy. But I'm sure that most of the best bots will be updated not to have any massively glaring issues. And yeah, it is going to be interesting to see where this one goes. This could put Benbot at quite a bit of a disadvantage, not having its nice natural wall to start this game off, with its very bizarre positioned bunker. In fact, no wall at all, so Benbot could potentially take big damage from this Adept of Deimos. We shall see. And then we do have a tech lab on the way for Benbot on that factory, so maybe we'll see a tank or a cyclone, probably a tank. Knowing Benbot, this Adept will shade. It sees the SCV, sees the bunker, and then turns around, so it doesn't really want to go past that. The SCV wants blood, does eat a few shots, and then retreats. The Adept cancels the shade. It is very difficult with a unit like an Adept, I imagine, to program it to realize what a golden opportunity is. So the bot authors have just taken an approach that tends to keep them alive and use them for scouting. Now, a Marine's coming out, doesn't chase the Adept, which is good to see. Tanks on the way. This SCV does move out. I'm wondering where this guy's going. Is it to scout? What's it doing? The pathing of Benbot may be a little bit bugged as another SCV gets fed to that Adept, so definitely not ideal. However, a tank is on the way. If that siege is up by the bunker, that could potentially help zone out the Adept and the Stalker further. Deimos behind this does have an Immortal on the way, a Stalker on the way. The Adept did kill off one Marine. Another 2 Marines are looking to corner it, though, and they very well may get it. I imagine it'll probably cancel the shade there. While this is going on, though, the Stalkers do poke forward. The tank is sieged up on the high ground in a position where it'll kind of cover the bunker, kind of cover the main ramp, but not really cover the natural. As these 2 Stalkers, they do move up that ramp, and yeah, this is just looking very unfortunate for Benbot, as the bot does need an update potentially in order to solve these issues. A Widow Mine's on the way for the Terran bot. Marines moving forward. I think we may be having a bit of a clear-cut one here. However, a Widow Mine does burrow. We'll see if it can get one of the Stalkers. The tank, it's just not in an optimal position. Now an Immortal's coming on up. Does avoid the Widow Mine. It's very good pathing from Deimos in order to stay away from those. Benbot is just sort of trickling out units now at this point. Hellions, Marauders, Marines on the way. Meanwhile, Deimos is on 44 workers. And so things are really getting out of hand here. And I think we do have what is probably just a clear-cut victory from Deimos. But, I mean, it's not over yet, but I think it's probably over. But yeah, this is the kind of thing that new maps this is the kind of problems new maps will cause to bots. Like, I'm not sure if those walls are hard-coded for BenBot. Usually I imagine they are. And like the bot didn't just crash because it couldn't put that, but it does have checks, as we saw in the chat tag. Deimos, though, is just a straightforward bot. It doesn't really rely on the walls or anything like that, so it's not having that weakness, whereas BenBot, of course, did. And yeah, the good news is I already have another replay queued on up, which hopefully is not a Torches map, and will indeed be a different matchup. So we'll just fast forward into that one. Sometimes games are just clear cut, and that's the way it is in these bot matches. Should I post things like this on YouTube? That's debatable. I mean, at the same time, it's like, yeah, you want to show all sides of the bots. And so yeah, if you guys haven't already, click that like button, leave a comment down below if you do enjoy seeing the sort of derpier bots. This is something that will probably be solved fairly quickly by the bot author, and just highlights the challenges of programming a bot if you do use things that are map dependent, which a lot of bots definitely do. BenBot, yeah, just unfortunately a victim of that. So we'll load into the next match here. Okay, here we are, ladies and gentlemen, into our next match. Hopefully this one doesn't have a bug such as that. The fact that BenBot doesn't know how to wall on the new maps does still make me wonder how I managed to lose to it when my Lings should, in theory, just get into its base. So I may need to look further into that one. But yeah, we'll see, as we've got two bots that I'm very excited to cast. Wickedbot, Aololis are two up-and-coming bots in this scene. I was thinking probably Aololis, Wickedbot, and Antibot are probably like three of the bots that are sort of newer and quite exciting. So we shall watch their career with great interest. TVP is the matchup, and yeah, I have no idea how this one's going to go. Wickedbot does go for a scout, checking for a proxy, which is the sign of a bot that, well, actually cares if it's proxied or not. Meanwhile, Aololis is just going for a single gateway to start things off, building up the money to get a nexus. The probe moves to the low ground. I do like the timing on this, quite refined. We see the probe gets to where it needs to build the nexus right on time. There's a fair few bots out there that will only send out the worker to build it once they have the money, which means they lose the transfer time. And little things like that definitely do add up. And yeah, we do have a Marine on the way for a Wickedbot, as Aololis goes for the Cybercore, unsurprisingly. So pretty standard TVP opening here between these two. Now a bunker is being queued up for Wickedbot. The position, not that bad compared to BenBot's position. And I mean, it's just one of those things. I guess it kind of depends on how you go about programming where to build that bunker. I think probably closer to the command center, the better. But Wickedbot is just going for a bunker. It's not necessarily going for a wall. Although it did manage to build its depot and its racks in position, which I think may be something that's gotten out of like Python SC2. That may be readily available info as a bot author for you to access. I want to say, I imagine that's the case. Otherwise, we'd have a lot more derpy walls at the front. One Stalker is out for Aololis. It's chrono boosting out another. Chrono boosting Stalkers, not probes, is interesting. We do have no warp gate on the way, so Aololis might just be using good old-fashioned gateways. Now, there is an orbital command on the way for Wickedbot. The Marines hanging out by the bunker. A second Rax goes on up. And meanwhile, we do get a bit of an SCV transfer. And yeah, Wickedbot just doing its thing, building up Terran Bio. Aololis, meanwhile, going into a Robo. Fast Colossus definitely can be something very good. I imagine now the Colossus bug has been fixed. They were dealing extra damage in previous bot games, but we can keep an eye out on that. If they look particularly weak, that's just because we've been used to it. And who knows, we might not actually have Colossus. It could very well be Disruptors, something like that, as there is a Prism on the way, which is very exciting, as Warp Prisms are one of those units that have the most micro potential when it comes to bots. Humans can barely manage one. Bots can, in theory, manage as many as they like. Aololis, though, does just fire up Extended Thermal Lance. And then that means it's going to be a Colossus behind this. This build coming together quite nicely for the Protoss. Just 2 Stalkers into Colossus, Prism, and Robo. 37 probes, though. Bringing in enough of the dough to buy all that. We may even have a 3rd Nexus on the way as this probe does move on out. Going for a 3rd Nexus behind this would be really nice for Aololis. Wickedbot, meanwhile, is just going for a Terran bio style. That is really what it's mostly known for. And that could be good. It could be horrible if it does just try and stim bio into Colossus, but it's one of those things that'll really depend on the micro that's programmed into these 2 bots. A 3rd command center is on the way for Wickedbot, building that in the main base, and then presumably going to float that over. This factory and starport are having a hard time parking. I can only assume that was the programming or something of the factory just being like, hey, there's an add-on, I should land, and it not giving the starport a chance to land. Anyway, it does eventually get where it needs to go, as we do have 2 medivacs on the way. Stimpack is done for Wickedbot. Combat Shield will be a very important upgrade against this Colossi. Now, let's see. We do have more racks being added on, the 3rd command center being built alongside the 3rd Nexus. So this is just a very respectful macro game between these 2. So far, no Forge from Aololis. Nothing else is actually being built by the Protoss bot. I can only assume it's hanging on the 3rd Nexus as its trigger, although it was actually supply block, so maybe just not building pylons, which is why it wasn't building stuff, which is not something a bot should do. It does work its way out of the supply block, though, so Colossus, Stalker, Forge on the way. Yeah, I guess it was waiting on the supply from the Nexus. A pylon does get built in the mineral line, which is quite unfortunate, as those probes will not mine from that. The speed mining of Aololis means they won't just path around the pylon, which I guess is something to consider. The Protoss bot does go for a 4th base, seizing the gold. Wickedbot, meanwhile, went for a drop. Oh my gosh, pardon my observing. I get distracted by the dumbest things. We're going to roll that one back a second, as Wickedbot did go for a little bit of a push. Now, we do have the Marines stimming on in after the Stalkers. Prism doing a good job shuttling them back while the Colossus gets off some big swipes, though. So Wickedbot's first attack isn't the most successful, it seems, as, yeah, that Colossus just deals lots of damage to Marines. It will be a bit better for the Marines once they have Combat Shield. We do have a Forge on the way, though, and +1 already on the way for Wickedbot. So Wickedbot will have a slight upgrade lead. The 3rd command center now floating over. The 4th is on the way, but Aololis already has its 4th, the gold base building. Meanwhile, Marines may be wanting to fight Colossi. We have the weird pathing of torches as Wickedbot unloads some Marines on the other side. These medivacs are being worked on, though, but they are wisely retreating, just not wisely retreating wisely enough, as the Protoss bot is pushing across the map, and this Colossus continues to be scary. There's 2 of them out, as the second one is looking to join up with this, so hopefully Wickedbot does build some Marauders, and it does have 1 out. It will need some more, though, in order to deal with this, as the Blue Terran could be in a bit of trouble. 2 Colossi are no joke to deal with, as, let's see, one of them does walk up this cliff. Marines are skirmishing with it, though. And look at this. Marauders with medivacs healing them are not bad against this composition. Like, the single fire damage of Colossi is not that high, so we may actually see one of them die. Will the Prism save it? Looks like the answer is not quite, as it doesn't actually die. But these Marauders are taking lots of damage now to the Colossi. Wickedbot is still producing Marines, but it's building lots of workers, getting up extra production. It really just needs units. At this point, 1 Marine trying to be a hero. Will it get the Colossi? Not quite. It got down to 2 HP, and now the Blue Terran is just lacking units. SCVs being pulled into a Colossi is not a good thing. And I think Aololis, now with its 3rd Colossus, may just be able to snowball this one and potentially sees the win. Yes, Colossi. Oh, that one actually does end up going down, but unfortunately Wickedbot did invest too much in production, I think, and did quite have enough units in order to handle this. We did have a Marauder get caught behind the racks. And then, I mean, I guess it'll be kind of safe tucked in there. But eventually Aololis will just crush through this. The Protoss bot has got a 5th base on the way now. +1 attack is done. Twilight's on the way. Another Colossi is on the way. A bit of a shorter video here today, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, interesting one nonetheless. Aololis is definitely a bot to watch. Wickedbot's one to watch, but a quick Colossi bot is probably always going to do well against a bio-exclusive bot. And yeah, I think I've already said the spiel enough at this point. But yeah, just big thanks to everyone that does support the channel. Mule's now long distance mining. I'm not sure where they're going, but that ain't it. And yeah, we'll just fast forward to the end of this one. I might just throw on a micro battle at the end of this as well. For those of you that are still watching, you guys seem to enjoy those as much as I do. GG. Alright, so now we've got a good test for Muravev Micro P, a new microbot on the ladder that's doing quite well, but it's a mirror matchup, so it really all just is on the micro, and so far things are going quite well as the red Protoss bot does pull back its injured Stalker to good effect. It's 4v4 though. Sharpie does pull back its injured ones as well, but now they are all slightly more injured than those of Muravev. I hope I'm pronouncing that one right, by the way. And yes, let's see, 5 Stalkers against 5 Stalkers. We'll see if Muravev can prove that it wasn't a fluke as these two engage each other once more. One very injured Stalker for the red Protoss does go down. Sharpie, though, has a few that are very, very low. This one's a little bit closer, and I think it's looking good for Sharpie. It's going to be the next shot. It was almost a tie, but Muravev just barely wins. We've now got Adepts and Probes against Adepts and Probes as the Probes run right on in like the warriors they are. The Adepts getting shots off. However, the Probes of Muravev do hold up a little bit longer, but still, it's just going to come down to the Adepts versus the Adepts here. Injured Adepts being pulled back. Muravev does have more units, though. And yeah, Sharpie Micro will go down. It's a very impressive showing from Muravev as far as the Micro goes. Probes having a bad job once again as they do just battle while the Adepts shoot shots over their head. We've got these Adepts engaging each other once again. Looks like Sharpie does group up a little bit better. It's 2v1 on both sides now. Looks like things are going much better for Sharpie in this one as it does pick off the Adept of Muravev. It's 2v1 and there's no HP left for Muravev. So well done, Sharpie. Able to put a point on the board. Zealots and Stalkers now against Zealots and Stalkers. No upgrades, so the kiting back is going to be important as the Zealots are just soaking and taking damage. It's just the Zealots pretty much dying at the same time. So now Stalker versus Stalker. It's 2v1 and 3v2 though, as the bots split up their units a little bit differently. Sharpie, though, having the numbers in this one, does wander one of its Stalkers a bit further forward, though. Eats a few more shots than it should. And I think this one's going to just barely go in Muravev's favor, and it does, as the red Protoss wins again. Now, Sharpie is just pretty much keeping its units nice and clumped up, same as Muravev. So it's really tough to say which one of these bots is doing what better. The Zealot staying alive for Sharpie longer this time. That does mean it gets more free shots off, and an early Stalker death for the red Protoss is going to hurt it greatly. And yeah, that is not looking too good as Sharpie puts another point on the board. Neither bot has won this match yet. Muravev needs 1 to secure a tie. Sharpie needs to win the next 6 to win. It's possible, as we do see these bots going at each other as the Zealots die all on both sides. The Adepts for Sharpie are very clumped up now. One Stalker fighting one Stalker at the bottom. Meanwhile, we've got Muravev really splitting out, forming a concave. Shade actually gets used by Sharpie, not a bot that lets abilities sit idle. And it's 3 Stalkers, 2 Adepts against 3 Stalkers. The Stalkers were very injured for Muravev, though. 1 Stalker for 1 Stalker. It's now a 1v2, but Muravev, I think, will win this. Either that or we're going to have an honest-to-God tie. It is a tie. I don't think we've seen that before. Coming down to the final projectile, it's surprising we don't have more of those, to be honest. Adepts and Zealots against each other once more, as Sharpie does seem to win the early engagement. Now Stalkers in the back still firing away. The Adept shading forward is definitely interesting from Sharpie, getting on top of its opponents, but kind of suiciding in the process. So whether putting them under maximum fire after that teleport is ideal or not is questionable. Now Sharpie's Stalkers are very injured. Muravev seems to be looking to take this one. This one will give it the win, and that is going... Oh, pardon me, there's at least one more. Stalker versus Stalker. Oh, right, there's a tie, so there's another match. They each got a point for that, I believe. Now, Stalker's blinking all over the place like madmen. I almost want to turn off the UI for this one just to embrace it as these two go at it. And Stalkers are blinking all over the place here. And yeah, Muravev seems to be falling down in numbers. They're all so injured. Blink Micro is one of the more straightforward things to program, but you can definitely do it better than others as these two engage each other once more. It's really tough to say which bot is doing better, but Muravev does seem to not be teleporting its Stalkers away as quickly as Sharpie. I think Sharpie is just blinking all over the place. Now Muravev is backed into a corner. Sharpie has quite a few very injured Stalkers. This one is much closer. The highest HP Stalker should be in the front to soak one for the team, but it looks like Muravev will take this one, I think, giving us a grand score of 7-4 with the bonus round for the tie.